Hello everyone, I'm thrilled to be speaking with you today on a topic that resonates with all of us. A phenomenon we've all experienced at some point in our lives. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Have you ever lost sleep over a big presentation, an important meeting, or a challenging conversation you had to have the next day? Your mind relentlessly churning over every worst-case scenario, only to find when the day arrived it wasn't nearly as bad as you imagined. That's what we're delving into today, this very human tendency to create and engage with our own personal horror stories long before reality has had a chance to cast its vote. We have all been there. It's midnight, the world is silent, but inside our heads the storm is raging. We imagine every detail, every possible mishap. Our heart races, palms sweat, and we are imprisoned by the fear of what hasn't happened yet and may never even occur. I'd like you to remember that feeling for a moment. That's the power of our imagination. It can conjure fear and suffering that far surpasses what we experience in reality. But why do we do this to ourselves? And more importantly, how can we break free from these self-made chains? Understanding imagination and fear. As human beings, we've been gifted with a powerful tool, our imagination. This tool is like a double-edged sword. It can be our greatest ally or our most formidable adversary. It's this imagination that fuels innovation, problem-solving, and allows us to plan for the future. But sometimes, this same imagination leads us astray. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've been asked to deliver a speech at an important event. The thought alone is enough to get the butterflies fluttering in your stomach. We start playing out different scenarios in our minds. What if I forget my lines? What if the audience doesn't like my speech? What if I trip on stage? And before you know it, we've spiraled into a pit of fear and anxiety over events that haven't even occurred. But why does this happen? The answer lies in our evolution. Our ancestors survived by anticipating threats and preparing for them. This future thinking was essential for their survival. However, in our modern world, this evolutionary advantage can become an impediment when our mind starts overestimating threats and underestimating our ability to cope with them. We end up creating a world in our minds filled with worst-case scenarios and impending disasters. Our brain gets stuck in this threat anticipation mode, triggering stress, anxiety, and fear. A state of constant suffering that is more intense than what we experience in reality. But let me assure you, it doesn't have to be this way. There are ways to tame our overactive imagination and free ourselves from this self-imposed suffering. Empowering action steps. Now that we've learned how to distinguish between the fears born in our imagination and the challenges that exist in reality, let's discuss some action steps we can take to prevent unnecessary suffering. Mindfulness is one of the most powerful practices we can adopt. By focusing on the present moment, we can mitigate the impact of a runaway imagination. The more we live in the now, the less we'll be lost in the fearful scenarios of our minds. Another beneficial practice is cognitive behavioral techniques. These strategies can help us understand and change our pattern of negative thoughts. This includes methods like thought stopping, where we consciously say stop to interrupt fear-provoking thoughts, and then replace them with more realistic, balanced thoughts. Finally, adopt a balanced approach to planning for the future. Prepare for potential challenges without assuming the worst-case scenario is the only possible outcome. You have the ability to handle the trials of reality. You're stronger than you believe. As we wrap up, remember this. Our fears are often magnified by our own minds. It's crucial to understand and accept this, as that understanding is the first step toward regaining control. Our imagination is a double-edged sword, and like any powerful tool, it's all about how we use it. We can choose to harness its power to create beautiful dreams and achieve our goals, or let it trap us in a world of self-inflicted suffering. So let's choose to wield our imagination wisely, grounding it in reality, not losing ourselves in imagined catastrophes. For as Mark Twain wisely put it, I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened.